Breaking, the King just ended a Prime Minister's career in under 5 minutes. This morning, King Charles walked into the House of Commons unannounced and did something no British monarch has attempted in over 200 years. What happened next left every MP speechless and Keir Starmer looking like he'd just watched his entire government collapse in real time. Let me show you exactly what went down, because what you're about to hear is going to shake everything you thought you knew about British politics. If you want the full story on how British politics just exploded, hit subscribe right now. You won't want to miss what happens next. Parliament was in routine session when the chamber doors flew open with a force that made every head snap around. No announcement, no protocol, just King Charles III walking straight down the centre aisle with the same cold expression he wore at his mother's funeral. Every conversation stopped, phones came out. Conservative MPs froze mid-sentence, and Starmer, his jaw locked the second he saw who was walking toward him. Witnesses said the Prime Minister looked like he'd swallowed ice. Charles didn't acknowledge anyone. He just walked with absolute purpose until he stopped 3 feet from Starmer and stared him down with centuries of royal authority behind his eyes. Then he spoke. "Prime Minister, you have tested my patience." Complete silence, the kind where you can hear people holding their breath. Then Charles reached into his coat and pulled out a folded document sealed with royal wax, the deep crimson kind, used only when the Crown issues a final warning. MPs leaned forward. Everyone knew something massive was about to happen. Charles held it up and began reading, citing a constitutional clause buried so deep that most MPs didn't even know it existed. A clause allowing the monarch to intervene when the government threatens the realm's stability. Starmer's face went pale. His hands gripped the dispatch box so hard his knuckles turned white. Then Charles said, the line now playing on every news channel: "Parliament is not above the Crown. Parliament exists because the Crown allows it." Audible gasps from both sides of the chamber. Even Conservative MPs looked stunned. This wasn't theatre, this was a constitutional earthquake happening live. Charles wasn't done. He pulled out a second statement, one not cleared by Downing Street, one nobody expected. "If this government insists on dismantling our constitutional balance, I must act before Britain loses more than just its traditions." Then he did something that shocked even his own aides. He walked past Starmer entirely and handed the document directly to the Speaker, bypassing the Prime Minister completely. Every reporter started typing frantically. Alerts went out across the country within seconds. Charles leaned in close enough for only Starmer to hear, "This is your final warning." Then he turned and walked out, didn't wait for a response, didn't look back. The doors closed behind him with a sound that echoed like a gunshot. For 3 full seconds, nobody moved. Then chaos erupted. Here's where it gets worse for Starmer. You'd think MPs would rush to their Prime Minister's side, show unity, present a strong front. They didn't. The moment Charles left, Labour MPs scattered. Ministers whispered frantically. Aides sprinted through side doors, stairs. Backbenchers started making urgent calls. And Starmer just stood there, still gripping that dispatch box, staring at the door like he couldn't process what happened. Not a single Labour MP approached him, not one. Within minutes, the Speaker tried to call for order, but nobody listened. Conservative MPs weren't hiding their reactions anymore. Some were smirking, others openly laughing. Then Starmer tried to make a statement. The Speaker refused to recognise him. Yes, the Speaker of the House blocked the Prime Minister from speaking. His reason: Parliament needed procedural clarity first. Translation: even the Speaker didn't trust Starmer to handle this. Outside Westminster, thousands gathered at the gates, half chanting, "Defend the Crown," the other half shouting, "No king in politics!" Police formed barriers to keep them apart. Then news broke across every network. King Charles's notice wasn't symbolic. It carried legal weight, demanding review of the government's proposals, something that could suspend key parts of Starmer's entire agenda. When Starmer learnt this, his face went ashen. Inside Downing Street, absolute panic. Cabinet ministers flooded into emergency meetings, phones ringing non-stop, aides running between rooms looking more frantic by the minute. One source leaked that Angela Rayner threw her notes across the table, shouting, "He warned you, Keir! He warned you weeks ago!" Another insider said Starmer tried to give a reassuring speech to his cabinet, but his voice kept cracking. Half the ministers avoided eye contact. The other half were checking phones, either reading reactions, or secretly messaging potential replacements. Then the polls came out. Starmer's approval dropped 12 points in under 1 hour, the fastest political collapse in modern British history. Social media exploded. Hashtags like King for Starmer and Back the Crown dominated every platform. Even foreign leaders weighed in. One EU official said, "This is the most unstable Britain has looked since Suez." But the most brutal comment came from a senior Labour MP who told Sky News, "This is the end. Whether he resigns today or next week doesn't matter. He's finished." Then at 8:47 p.m, the real bomb dropped. A leaked audio recording from a closed-door cabinet meeting hit the internet just 9 seconds long. In it, you can hear Starmer shouting, "The King has no authority here. None." Followed by what sounds like a fist slamming on the table. That clip spread faster than any political content this year. Commentators called it the moment Starmer declared war on the monarchy. By 9 p.m, 3 senior Labour ministers resigned. One wrote just a single sentence: "The Prime Minister has lost the confidence of the country." Another wrote, "He ignored warnings, he ignored advice, now Britain pays the price." Through the night, more resignations came, 5 more before 6 a.m. One departing secretary wrote, "A Prime Minister who wages war against the Crown wages war against the nation." By sunrise, Westminster looked like a crime scene. Reporters described the atmosphere as funeral-level quiet. Meanwhile, King Charles had been awake all night in private consultations with constitutional advisors. Palace officials refused to confirm anything, making speculation more intense. Every breakfast show ran the same headline: "Is Britain heading for a royal countermove?" Downing Street tried to push back with a unity statement, but it was so weak that journalists openly mocked it. One editor wrote, "Unity messages are for governments that still have a government." Inside number 10, Starmer was pacing alone, repeating, "The King can't do this. He can't do this." But the truth was simple. He already had. While Starmer spiralled, King Charles's influence grew by the hour. Outside Buckingham Palace, massive crowds gathered on their own. No organisers, just ordinary citizens holding signs reading "Protect our Constitution" and "Stand with the Crown." A spontaneous royalist movement erupted overnight. Pensioners, veterans, young families, business owners, all telling reporters, "Someone had to stop Starmer. The King finally did." A famous British actor tweeted, "Charles showed more leadership in 5 minutes than the government has in 5 months." 2 million likes before breakfast. Then the markets reacted. The pound went into free fall. Investors warned of governmental paralysis. Credit agencies hinted at emergency downgrades. For the first time, the business community asked whether Starmer could survive another 24 hours. At 9:42 a.m, Parliament received an extraordinary delivery, a letter hand-delivered by a royal courier, sealed in deep crimson wax. Inside was a message from King Charles, not to the Prime Minister or Cabinet, to the entire House of Commons. The letter warned that continued ministerial instability threatens the unity of the realm and urged Parliament to consider its responsibility to the nation. One MP said it felt like a fire alarm. Another said she'd never seen a monarch so directly suggest new leadership without saying it. Starmer demanded the Speaker block the letter from being read aloud. The Speaker refused. He insisted it be entered into official record and broadcast live. When millions heard the King's words, Britain erupted. Pro-royal demonstrations swelled to tens of thousands. Labour MPs received thousands of emails demanding they remove Starmer. Even anti-monarchy newspapers shifted tone, calling Charles's actions a necessary stabilising force. By midday, senior Labour figures gathered in a room usually reserved for emergency leadership votes. Their faces were grey. Phones wouldn't stop buzzing. They hadn't planned a no-confidence vote today. But waiting even 1 more hour seemed reckless. One MP said, "If we don't act now, the public will." Another replied, "If we don't act now, the King might." At 12:58 p.m, the story broke. Labour MPs were preparing an emergency vote to remove Keir Starmer. Starmer found out from a journalist, not his own party. Witnesses say he slammed his fist down and shouted, "Traitors! Every last one!" But shouting couldn't save him. His authority was gone. His cabinet collapsed. The king had struck. The public turned. And now his own party was moving to finish what Charles started. So here's the question. Is Starmer finished? Will Labour force him out? And what does this mean for the British monarchy? Drop your prediction in the comments. And if you want to know what happens when that vote takes place, hit subscribe because this story is far from over. Part 2 drops soon. I'll see you in the next one.